Hey Janice, it's Rita, clearly, and I wanted to make this short coaching video kind of around the question that you sent me the other day. I know you've been in a tough situation and you'd never thought you'd be having to deal with these questions at the age you're at, and you probably still look at your life and looking like you've got a lot of life ahead of you. So one of the things that I know, I've worked with a number of women who have been late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, and worked with women up into their 80s and late 80s too. And one of the things that they all tell me is this real sense that they've got a lot of life still ahead of them, that they've got a lot to look forward to in their life, and they've spent, the majority of their life so far, usually with people who had narcissistic tendencies, men who had narcissistic tendencies, and they really took the short end of the stick. And they were ready at that time in their life to be like, you know what, I've got a lot of my life left. I don't want to screw around with this anymore. I want to take care of my health. I want to get out there and do all the things that I put on the back burner while waiting for, whatever to happen, while taking care of other people, while being the main caretaker. And, they really look at their life and say, I'm ready to live it. So you have got a lot of life ahead of you, a lot of it. And I think you're spot on. If you agree to marry him, you really don't know how long he's going to live. And one of the first, he could live quite a while. And then you end up in this whole weird situation as he gets sicker and his memory starts to go, and maybe dementia kicks in. I mean, there's all sorts of health issues which he is primed for, that you are setting yourself up to be the main caretaker for maybe the next 10, maybe the next 20 years. So you want to think about all of that. With how modern medicine is, they can keep people limping along with tons of health issues. And then you start looking at in-home caregivers. I mean, you look at a million different things. So the question I have women ask themselves is, are the benefits you get from the relationship worth the drawbacks? If you get, hundreds of benefits, financially, emotionally, mentally, socially, if you feel like, yeah, I get a lot of benefits from this relationship, so it's worth it to me to help them through this situation. If the benefits, even if it's just, not just, but even if it's your code of ethics or your own personal code of honor about what you prioritize, that you prioritize helping others, at all costs, no matter what it costs to yourself. So you have to look at or feel your way through almost intuitively as to whether this person brings enough benefit to the relationship, not just now, but over the next 10 or 20 years, which is how long they could live. And if they were declining, do they bring enough benefit? If they don't, then I'll tell you something that I learned a while back in the healing industry, which is not everybody is a great fit for other people. So not everybody who has pain or shoulder problems or narcissistic relationships or any of those things, not everybody is a really good fit for me. It doesn't mean that I have to try to be the healer for everybody. In fact, someone does best with someone who is in alignment with them. So what I mean by that is, if you aren't the person, either because you're going to be tired, it's not worth it, you don't get enough benefits from it, you see that the next 10, 20 years of your life are gonna, keep going downhill. If you look at that and you're like, nope, I really don't want to be with this person, I really don't want to invest that much, then you have to let him find somebody who does want to invest that much. somebody who does want to step up and be there. And as long as you're there taking care of the basic needs, taking care of the things that he wants to marry you for, as long as you're doing that, then there isn't any space for the right person to come along and say, you know what, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be there for you. So if it's not right for you, you have to let them find somebody who is right for them. Just like in my healing practice. If someone isn't a good fit for me, it doesn't mean that I have to mold myself into becoming somebody that I don't want to be. Instead, it means that I know that they just aren't the right fit for me, and the right person will come along for them. So don't hold on to that level of guilt, because part of what evolves us as people is when our backs are to the wall. And if this gentleman, knows that you aren't going to sacrifice yourself for him, that if he does want a further relationship, that he needs to become a better partner. He needs to become someone who's more equal to who you are. It shouldn't be a power play. We shouldn't be with somebody because they need us, and they shouldn't be with us because they need, because they need us. It should be where you can stand, with enough confidence and centeredness on your own, and you come together. Because believe you me, when you open the space in your life that he's taking up, when you open, when you're no longer being responsible for another adult human being who gets to make the choices that they want to make. When you use up that time and space, then there's no time and space for a better relationship, for better connections, for a better use of your time with closer friendships. What keeps us stuck, what keeps us back isn't, it's what keeps us back are the choices that we make. It's not that we're broken. It's not that there's something wrong with us. It's not that no one will love us anyways. It's not that we're helpless. It has nothing to do with that. We stay stuck because of the choices we make. And if we keep making the same choices of being in relationships with people where it's completely one-sided and you don't, or mostly one-sided, but you don't get enough benefit to outweigh the drawbacks over the next 20 years, if you don't, you need to open up that space so that other people can come in for you and for him. So my suggestion would be is that you back off a bit, a little bit of objectivity. You ask yourself what you are willing to give and what you're not willing to give. Decide for yourself what you are willing to give and what you're not willing to give. And then those are your boundaries. If you're not willing to give emotional support or money or time or abuse in any way, if you're not willing to give that to the relationship, which you shouldn't, if it's a one-sided relationship, then you need to find some place where you can give it. You need to find someone that you feel is worthy of that, because a one-sided relationship does not work. We train people how to treat us. And it's quite likely that if you give him the space, if you set the boundaries and say, you know what, I'm not willing to let you marry me, I'm not willing to let you live with me, I am willing to help you find a place to live, I am willing to help you, maybe to go with you to some support groups, I'm willing to do that. I'm not willing to be tied to you for the next 20 or 10 or 20 years. I'm willing to help you get the resources and the support that you need so that you won't need me anymore. That might be your boundary right there. That might be a nice balancing act. But it's all about you deciding for yourself what you want and what you don't want, and trusting that, when you follow that need and that intuitive desire of what feels right to you, what feels good, what feels like it's moving you forward, what makes you happy, people that make you happy, situations, environments, when you put that as to where you're going, you start creating that. You start creating those friendships. You start creating those connections. You start creating those opportunities. You've got so much life. And for you to allow yourself to take care of someone who is unable to help take care of you, you're the one who gets to decide. And I worked with a gentleman who had Lou Gehrig's disease, and I helped him near end of life. And he ended up, as most people with Lou Gehrig's, not dying of Lou Gehrig's. He died of respiratory distress from bronchitis. So, that happened because he was so depressed, because he was so numb to life, because he felt so helpless, because he felt so needy. Because he felt that way, he got sick and passed away. And he had grandkids still on the way. He had, kids who were pregnant with his grandkids. They had just moved into a new house, into a beautiful new area. He had a wonderful wife he'd been with for 30 years, and they'd made all of these memories. But he decided to let himself get sick and die. And I had a really hard time with that until I came to believe that everyone has the right to make the choices for their life. And if someone needs to make a choice that causes them to pass away, that's their right. If they make choices that cause them to get sick, we can be super compassionate. We can give up to our boundaries what we're willing to give. But that's still, at the end of the day, their choice. There's an author, her name is Brene Brown. She's a speaker, lecturer too. And she would talk about the most compassionate women she knows are women that have good boundaries. Because when you're not being victimized, when you're not being used, when you're not having to worry that that's going to happen, because you know what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept, those are the women that can have the most compassion, because they're not constantly having their energy sucked away. We can be kind to people and we can love people from a distance. We don't have to be right in their face. There's a wide variability, and you get to choose how much you want to engage and how much you don't. And when you engage less, there's more time and energy to create the relationships that you want, and he's got more time and energy to find the relationships that he needs. Doesn't have to be you. You aren't responsible for him, because you don't know what all he needs to do. You don't know what journey he's on and what path he needs to take. Only he does. And so you can support him in the way that you want to support him, but other than that, he has to be allowed to make his choices. So I hope that has provided some clarity. I hope that's given a little bit of new thoughts to think. I'm not saying I'm right and I have all the answers. What I am saying, though, is you have a lot of options. And it doesn't always mean, cut them off at the knees and never speak to them again. No, you get to decide for you what works right for you. And then if you need help, holding those boundaries, if you need help with how to say things, the scripting, when you need some help making sure that you follow through and starting to dream bigger about what you want your life to look like over the next 10 or 20 years. If you need support for that, reach out to the group and to me, because you're not supposed to do this alone. You really, really aren't. You are not supposed to do this journey alone. And so that's what we're here to help you do, because we absolutely do care. We know where you're at. We know, what's out there, and we've got your back, okay? So I hope that give you some thoughts. Feel free to email me back, and I'll talk to you later. And I hope to see you Tuesday, okay? Bye.